Last week we spoke to Michael Winterbottom. His new film is Shoshana, and that's out this week.
Yes, staying with complicated subject matter. So this is the new film from the writer and co-director Michael Winterbottom, whose back catalogue, whose extraordinary back catalogue includes Welcome to Sarajevo, 24-Hour Party People, A Cock and Bull Story, A Mighty Heart, Greed, for which we interviewed Steve Coogan. I mean, the thing about Michael Winterbottom, he will turn his hand to whichever project he is interested in, and, whether it's deadly serious or absurdly, fantastically comedic, he appears to do everything with the same level of commitment. So this is based on a true life story of love and war. The film was originally called, I learned this from you, Promised Land. Mm-hmm. Set between the world wars in what was then known as British-controlled Mandatory Palestine. So the bit of history, United Kingdom and France divided what had been Ottoman Syria under the Sykes-Picot Agreement, and the Balfour Declaration of 1917, in which Britain had promised its support for the establishment of a Jewish national home in Palestine, then leads to Mandatory Palestine established in 1920. So this is an area into which Jewish settlers are moving following the declaration of a national home state as a principle. Obviously, friction with the Arab population. The British are supposedly policing the growing hostility, which includes bombings, killings, and, of course, increasingly reprisal attacks. Screen Discovery, Irina, correct me if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Irina Starchenbaum?
I do believe that's correct.
Who learned Hebrew for the role.
Yes, as Michael Winterbottom told us, that's commitment. That is.
Yeah, I'd like you to do this role. And, one of the, Alicia Vikander learned a language to do a movie. So, hey. Anyway, so she is Shoshana Borakov, who is daughter of Ber Borakov, who was one of the founders of socialist Zionism. Douglas Booth is Tom Wilkin, assistant superintendent in the British Palestine Police, then moves into intelligence. They have a budding relationship which becomes a flashpoint as the tensions arise between the various warring factions. Are the British police there to police the Arabs and the Jews equally? What are the British allegiances? What are the British prejudices? Is the relationship between these two central people a source of possible conflict? Is what's playing out in their relationship actually a microcosm of everything else that's going on? Let's see a clip.
Hello.
Hello.
How was it?
Bad.
Why? What happened?
They chose Morton to replace Ralph.
He knows nothing about Tel Aviv. Why did they choose him over you?
I don't know.
You know everyone.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the problem. They want someone who knows no one, who knows nothing.
Are you planning on getting very drunk?
Yes.
So in a way, that scene kind of encapsulates, it starts off with him talking about Morton. That's Geoffrey Morton, played by Harry Melling, a man of brutally uncompromising methods who believes that the relationship between those two characters is preventing the man who is meant to be their man in the area from clamping down on the so-called Stern gang, the paramilitarist Zionists who during the course of the drama vow to get the Brits out of Palestine. So the story is a mix of history and romance, and it's told with a deftness that makes very complicated historical detail understandable. I mean, I knew some of this, but much of it I didn't. And I did think that it is deftly done in how it explains how these different factions relate to each other. And I think you could go into it knowing almost nothing and follow the political, story playing out. The whole film seems to play out in this kind of liminal space in which all boundaries, geographical, political, ethical, strategic, romantic, are all blurred, and all allegiances therefore become problematic. And if you had conceived it as a fiction, you'd be accused of overwriting, of saying this is too neat, this is too pat. The fact that most of what the story tells us is actually true, I think gives it a real sense of bite, that this relationship does become a microcosm of a much wider conflict. And the way in which those parallels work isn't just, there's that phrase, pathetic fallacy. Yeah? Pathetic fallacy is like...
Yes, I don't think I've ever used it.
Okay, well, it doesn't mean pathetic as in, as it derives. Pathetic fallacy is, as far as I understand, it's like somebody is, they're having stormy thoughts and tempestuous thoughts. Therefore, outside it is stormy and tempestuous. I believe that's pathetic. I'm sure that a literary professor will write in and correct me. But that is kind of playing out here, that what's happening between these central characters is mirroring this wider growing conflict. And the weird thing about it is that it doesn't feel contrived. I mean, I understand it doesn't feel contrived because what we're seeing is based in fact, but it's much more to do with the fact that whatever Project Winterbottom does, he does have a way of making things seem, and I do not mean this as a criticism at all, making things seem matter of fact. There's a moment in 24-Hour Party People when a character playing Howard Devoto is replaced on screen by the actual Howard Devoto, who's playing the janitor, who says, I am Howard Devoto, and this never happened. But because of the way that Michael Winterbottom does it, it doesn't feel like some terrible, fourth wall breaking thing. It's just like, so when you're watching this, you don't find yourself thinking, I'm sorry, which genre is it? Because it is, it's flitting across so many different genres. You think, okay, yeah, fine. I accept this. I buy into all of this. I'm finding it intriguing. I'm finding it interesting. Performances are very fun, particularly the central performance. And the idea that you would learn a whole language in order to perform a role is astonishing. But more importantly, the fact that it is addressing an incredibly complicated historical situation in a manner that is quick enough on its feet that it doesn't get bogged down. And that it was interesting in your interview with Winterbottom, he kept saying it's a romance first and foremost. It is a romance first and foremost, but it is a romance in which what's happening in that relationship is being mirrored horribly by what's happening behind it. I liked it.
And if you go to it thinking this is going to be like a history of the Middle East, it absolutely is not that. And also, there are very few Arab characters in there because it is specifically a story about a Jewish woman and a British man.
And in fact, you raised that question with him. You said if people go in expecting this other story, what will they get?
They're not going to get.
Go see a different film. It's not that film.